And joining us on our Newsmaker line to talk all about that is the chief economist there at the American Legislative Exchange Council. To tell us all about it is Jonathan Williams. Jonathan, how are you? Welcome back to the Rod Arquette Show.
Well, I'm doing great, Rod. Great to be back with you, and greetings from the land of make-believe out here in Washington, D.C.
What a day for Utah. You get this report in the Wall Street Journal. You get your report that was released today. I would say Utah's doing fairly well, wouldn't you, Jonathan?
Well, absolutely. We're big fans of the record of just continual success now for 17 years running in our Rich States, Poor States report. Congratulations to my good friend, Senate President Stuart Adams, Speaker Schultz, and all the legislators that have worked hard to get this done over the years. But I will say one thing, Rod, I'll take it a point of personal privilege. We agree with the Wall Street Journal. They're right on, but we were for Utah before it was cool to be for Utah 17 years ago. And I'm proud to say our projections came true, and you are leading the nation in terms of economic opportunity.
Boy, you were way ahead of the game for a long, long time, Jonathan. As you point out, what, in your opinion, is the formula that's working in this state right now? Why are we doing so well?
Well, it's a lot of great things. I was just doing an interview here in Washington a few minutes ago and went on for about 10 minutes about how the Utah resume has been built over the years of limited government and low taxes and respect for individual liberty. And, this idea that we shouldn't be too beholden on the federal government. I mean, Financial Ready Utah and my good friend Ken Ivory are just leading the way to make sure that Utah doesn't hitch its wagon to this real disaster that's happening with the federal budget. But I mean, this commitment to continuing to cut taxes, to respect the growth and not grow government too large relative to the size of the private economy, and to, at the end of the day, have the right incentives in place when it comes to lower taxes and lower regulation for businesses of all types to thrive. I mean, it is an incredible success story, and one that I think states all across the country are looking to emulate, because, it's not just our ranking or other academic papers that are out there. The proof's in the pudding. I mean, as you know well, Rod, Utah, one of the fastest growing states in America, and one of the key factors now 17 years in a row that we measure is how much Americans vote with their feet and move away from high tax states and move to states for economic opportunity. And that's exactly the formula that Utah offers.
Jonathan, how big of a challenge is it for Utah? Because as you mentioned, we're a growing state. We have a lot of people wanting to move to the state. Jobs are being created in the state. Of course, that leads to more pressure, sometimes for more government services, larger government. What kind of pressure do we face? And in your opinion, how have we been able to hold the line on this?
Well, I think you've had some real forethought in individuals and leaders that have gone before. I think of my friend Dan Lillienquist, who a decade plus ago was thinking about things that many other states hadn't even thought about, in reforming the state pension system to make sure that you don't face the billions upon billions of dollars in these massive unfunded liabilities that are plaguing states like California and Illinois across the country, threatening bankruptcy in some municipalities. And when businesses and individuals look at where to invest or where to move, they're not just looking at the current trajectory or current policy. They're looking at expectations of the future. And I think Utah has always been forward-looking. They continue a good policy mix in the current law, but they're always looking for ways to, A, avoid over-reliance on federal government, B, avoid the disaster of unfunded liabilities. And of course, I think a trailblazing law that Utah has had on the books is truth in taxation on property taxes, to make sure that assessments that are hitting taxpayers while it's hard right now all across the country are something that can be kept in check.
Jonathan, I don't know if you have the numbers in front of you, but are other Mountain West states doing as well as Utah? Is the region of the Mountain West doing very well in this regard, except for maybe Colorado?
That's right. I mean, the Mountain West has become very competitive. In fact, in this year's Rich States, Poor States, Idaho ranked number 2 and Arizona ranked number 3. So there you have it. You have a trifecta of Mountain West states that are looking at ways to become more competitive. I mean, as you probably know, Arizona's even surpassed Utah in the fact that it has a flat tax that is now only 2.5% on personal income. Idaho's also been creating tax cuts, went to a flat tax to match Utah. And, when you're at the top of the standings and you look at professional sports or anything else, all competitors' eyes are trained on you. And that's a good thing, because Utah is leading the nation, but it's also, to your point, can be a challenge to stay at number 1, and especially when you have the huge population inflows, is how do you provide those core government services without allowing government to grow too large?
Is there a sleeper out there, a state out there that we should keep our eye on right now as they try and move up in the rankings here, Jonathan?
Well, I think that, North Carolina's done a tremendous job over the years, moving from number 26 about 10 years ago to number 4 today. So they've been one of the biggest winners over the years. Indiana has been a state that's moved up tremendously and also now in the top 5. And so, I would keep our eyes on Idaho, on Arizona, on North Carolina, Indiana. And of course, there's always the powerhouse states like Texas and Florida, very large states that continue to do big things. Texas was one of the big winners in this report, moving from number 13 to number 6 this year due to an $18 billion tax cut on property tax.
Wow.
So there's a lot of competition out there, and that's a good thing inherently.
Yeah, it sure is. We all benefit from that competition. Jonathan, great report. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Always great to be with you. Congrats to you and the people of Utah for this incredible honor.